Okay, so there's something huge brewing in the crypto world, and it's not just what you see on the price charts. We're seeing these massive forces all converge on the market at once, and it's creating a totally new playbook. This week, we're going to break down exactly what is going on.
And really, it all boils down to this one big question. What actually happens when you get Wall Street money, cutting-edge AI, and yes, government regulators all zeroing in on crypto at the exact same time? And this isn't some future what-if scenario. It is happening right now, and it's already shaping the future of digital assets.
So to make sense of all this, you really gotta zoom out and look at the big picture. What our research is showing is that the market isn't just moving around randomly. No. It's being pushed and pulled by three very distinct, very powerful forces.
Yeah, the lines are totally blurring. So in this explainer, we're going to break down the three big pillars holding up this new market structure. First, you've got the institutional money. We're talking big money. Second, you have the regulatory guardrails finally starting to take shape. And third, you have these powerful new stories that are attracting all that capital in the first place.
All right, let's kick things off with the most obvious driver here, the money engine. I mean, the arrival of Bitcoin ETFs has completely changed the game. It's like the floodgates have been thrown open for a tsunami of institutional capital to pour in.
And if you need proof, just look at this number. In March alone, we saw nearly $2.5 billion flow into these new Bitcoin products. And let's be super clear here. This is not just a bunch of retail enthusiasm. This is the scale of Wall Street getting back into Bitcoin in a huge, huge way.
What this does is create this really powerful feedback loop, and you need to understand this logic because it's one of the most important things happening in the market today. The ETF money flows in, that helps support the price, which then makes everyone feel a lot better. It repairs the sentiment, which, you guessed it, encourages even more money to flow in. It's this self-fueling cycle, and it's a huge reason for the market's resilience right now.
Okay, so that's the money. Now let's talk about driver number 2, regulation. For the longest time, everyone saw this as a barrier, right? But that whole narrative is flipping. Now, clearer rules are actually becoming a catalyst. They're essentially paving a superhighway for all that institutional money we just talked about.
But you might be thinking, hold on, the money's already pouring into Bitcoin, so who really cares about regulation? And you know what? That's a great question, because the answer gets right to the heart of what's coming next for the rest of the crypto market.
So here's why it's so crucial. This isn't just about Bitcoin. For those big institutions to start investing beyond Bitcoin, they absolutely need to know which other assets, like a Solana or an XRP or others, are considered compliant. That clarity is the key that unlocks the door for a whole new wave of crypto ETFs and investment products.
And that brings us to our third driver, which honestly might be the most fascinating one of all. Okay, so the money's flowing in, the rules are getting clearer, so where is all that capital looking to go next? Well, it follows the story. The narrative. And right now, there are two huge stories that big money is buying into.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. Look at this quote from Grayscale, one of the biggest players in this space. They're pointing directly at AI and the tokenization of real-world assets. This tells you that institutions aren't just gambling. They are actively hunting for assets that have a really strong fundamental story behind them.
So what's the deal with these two stories? Why are they so hot right now? Well, when you boil it down, they're really two sides of the same coin. They're both about bringing real-world utility onto the blockchain. On one side, you have AI projects building out these decentralized compute networks. And on the other, you've got tokenization, which is all about bringing traditional financial assets onto the blockchain for easier, more transparent settlement. This focus on tangible, real-world value is exactly what big investors are looking for.
But of course, whenever a trend gets this hot, it brings a ton of noise with it. So we have to ask the next logical question. Is every project that slaps AI on its name a guaranteed winner? And the answer to that is a hard no. And this is how you can start to separate the signal from all that noise. The real signal is coming from the infrastructure projects, the ones building the actual plumbing for on-chain AI. Think projects like BitTensor or Render. The noise? That's coming from this wave of super high-risk pre-sale coins. These brand new tokens that pop up to ride the hype train, usually with very little substance and a whole lot of risk.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. The money, the rules, and the stories. Now, let's put it all together and give you a clear, forward-looking guide on what you should actually be watching to stay ahead of the curve.
Think of this as your forward-looking dashboard. First, you've got to watch the regulatory decisions. They're going to dictate which assets get institutional access next. Second, keep your eyes on those AI infrastructure projects. They're the main engines for that narrative. And third, track the tokenization space to see how traditional finance keeps merging with crypto.
Which leaves us with one last, really big question to chew on. We can see the playbook for today pretty clearly. It's money, it's regulation, and it's these narratives around AI and tokenization. But as these massive institutional forces keep reshaping the entire landscape, what do you think crypto's next defining story is going to be?